What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm your host. Happy Thanksgiving. It is Thursday, November 25th. The turkey is flowing, or the gravy is flowing. The turkey is on the table. The football is beginning soon. We have a separate podcast, of course, where we will give out Thanksgiving picks. Myself and Tyler Sullivan. That have been in your feed on Wednesday, so you can check that out. This is the full Sunday football pick show, normally featuring myself, Pete Prisco, RJ White, normally live, not so because we have Thanksgiving plans. Basically, Pete complains nonstop about his work schedule, even though it's not very difficult. He's not here because of that. So RJ and I will make the picks and give them out. RJ, what's up, buddy?
Not much. I think this is coming out after Thanksgiving, on Thanksgiving. Hope you're having a good.
This is currently Thanksgiving.
Hope you're having a good Thanksgiving. I'm sure everybody's huddled around the table listening to this podcast. That's why every family gets together on Thanksgiving, is to listen to the Pick Six Pick Show. So Friday morning driving back, I hope everybody's had a good Thanksgiving and got all the food that you wanted and not going to eat again for 3 or 4 days. Yes,
absolutely. Actually, on Thanksgiving, I make my family sit around and listen to me. I don't say a word. I just hit the play on the podcast, put it on the speakers, and make my entire extended family listen to me talk about football for several hours. It's better than that than, my relatives coming up and be like, "What do you think about the Panthers?" I'm like, "No, you know what? I'm not asking you about your job. You ask me about my job." I'm just kidding. I don't mind talking about it. I also would love if anyone watching on YouTube, youtube.com/pick6, subscribe and smash that like button. Look at that breaking news on the scroll. You can see the breaking news if you're watching on YouTube. Pete Prisco boycotts the Pick Six podcast on the holidays. It is classic Pete to no show a critical podcast. We still have his picks though. And by the way, if you're watching on YouTube, you can actually hold up your phone to the TV or to the computer and scan a QR code that's right above RJ's head on YouTube. And if you do that and scan that QR code, it will take you to the Pick Six podcast store, where right now everything there is 25% off. Actually, everything at the CBS Sports store is 25% off, but everything at the Pick Six podcast store, 25% off. You can support the show, show your love for the show, support the pod. Buy some hoodies, hats, pint glasses, and more. You can check it out. Like, I got this Pick Six podcast hoodie on. I got to tell you, it's extremely comfortable and kind of good looking. Like, I'm digging it. You walk around. Don't really want to be, I don't know if I want to walk around Raleigh. Just I like to maintain a low, you don't want to have the celebrity attention of a Pick Six podcast shirt on while you're walking around, the town. But maybe I'll wear this to Thanksgiving. Or maybe I'm wearing this right now and forcing my family to listen to the podcast. Anyway.
And Brinson, I just want to note that people are seeing, if you're watching right now on YouTube, prices that aren't reflective of that 25% off sale, because we are recording this before Thursday.
Right.
But come Thursday, when you are watching this, those prices will be slashed. No promo code, no discount code needed. 25% off the entire store.
Good look there, Debo. Good call. So, yeah,
do you think
people
will see that podcast and they'll be like, is that the guy that misses all his picks on the Pick Six podcast? Can I get his autograph? I was like, do you think that's going to happen?
Maybe. Although I think that the podcast has actually been doing pretty good on standalone primetime games. So maybe people don't hate me quite as much. And they're probably smart enough not to just blindly tail every single one of my picks on Sunday. I mean, if you are, I apologize in advance. Week 11 records. RJ back on the hot streak, 4-2. Pete, I went 3-4. Pete Prisco, because he's boycotting this show, is going to have an adjustment made to his record. He thinks he went 3-3. However, RJ, I am not giving him Bears +6. How do you feel about that?
You got to give him Bears +6. We make picks with the lines that we have at the time. So, I mean, you make your bet at that time with the sports book. You get cashed out no matter what. And you're not going to give your money back, if you took the other side of it and it goes down, which I had Ravens, on my picks for Sportsline. And I don't have my best bet with us, but I don't get to take that pick away. So, So I think Bears +6, you play it, however, whatever the number is when we play it, that's what we play.
All right, so that makes Pete actually 36-33 on the season. You were 36-29 on the season and 30-42. And Pete went 3-3 last week. But he won't listen to this, so don't tell him that we're giving him the Bears +6. I want him to think that we took it away from him because he's lashing out right now on text. I promise. I'm going to see that little red number climbing as the show goes along.
We're going to have to tell him by next show because otherwise he's going to talk about it every single show about how your pick's not going to count because we wouldn't give him that one. And so we'll have to deal with it for 5 minutes or every single show.
Oh God, you're right. Good point. The can't hit, won't hit parlay didn't hit as it is wont to do. Steelers actually covered the 5.5. Dolphins covered, but the Saints and Packers did not. Packers certainly could have. Saints weren't even close. That was a horrible bet, a loss for all three of us. And one of our favorite bets, the Eagles just ran all over the Saints unexpectedly. Week 12, we start in Green Bay with those aforementioned Packers who are playing the Rams, and it is a pick 'em at home in a pretty huge NFC game with a total of 47.5. Elgton Jenkins is out for the season with a torn ACL. Aaron Rodgers has said on Tuesday on the Pat McAfee show, I think he jokingly kept calling it COVID toe, but that's actually a real thing. So I don't know if that's actually what it is, but I don't think it is. Anyway, he has a toe injury that's worse than turf toe. And he says that it's really bothering him. There's a bunch of different options on the table, but his one option he said that is not on the table is sitting out this game. He's not going to miss any time. He he wants to try and go win the Super Bowl this year with this Packers in what could very well be the last dance for him. And this is not a ideal matchup against the Rams. Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey. If I'm looking at a team that can really create some issues for Green Bay, I sort of look at LA and defensively, they're a team that can do it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the Rams pass rush is going to feast with Elgton Jenkins out. Bakhtiari's not going to play this game. So, I mean, they're going to be in real trouble trying to stop this pass rush. I know COVID toe probably sounds like a bad thing, and it's going to hamper him poorly, but hopefully Dr. Joe Rogan will have a good treatment for that, and he'll be able to push through it. So we'll see. I think the bye came at a perfect time for the flailing Rams offense. It gives Beckham more time. It gives Stafford a chance to reset because he was not playing well before the bye. So some teams we see it kind of derails what they had going and their improvements, and then they come off the bye and they don't look great. I think the Rams could be the opposite. They can come out of this looking good. The Green Bay pass defense coming off its worst day, it could be just a blip. It might be something the Rams can exploit. The Rams defense couldn't slow Green Bay's offense in the playoffs last year. I think they've had this circled waiting for revenge. It's the perfect narrative spot of we need to prove that wasn't us. Now we got the quarterback to do it. Now Aaron Rodgers is hampered. So I think this is a game dictated by the Rams defense. I understand why the totals dropped a point since earlier in the day when it was 48.5. The Rams offense just needs to not be awful again to win. So I have the Rams as a pick 'em as a best bet. I think it's up to 1, Packers -1 as we speak. But if the injury issues are bad, or if Rodgers is still, saying he's going to be less than 100% in this game, I could see people jumping on the Rams and pushing it to Rams being favored. So I think if you can get +1 or you're seeing that, get it early, because I think game day it might flip.
I actually thought I saw, I see Rams +1 on my local. It is a pick 'em right now at Caesars. The totals climbed a point as well, which is a little interesting. But I agree. I mean, I'm not saying that the Packers can't beat the Rams, or the Packers could definitely beat the Rams, but the matchup here of, like, if you take it, the Packers flow their offense through, Aaron Jones when he's healthy and Devontae Adams, right? And Aaron Jones isn't healthy. He's not going to play in this game. Devontae Adams, they can stick Jalen Ramsey on him, and even and not have to. And then you can shadow coverage elsewhere, and you don't have to worry. In an ideal world, if Jalen Ramsey plays well, it can lock down Devontae Adams. All of a sudden, it really makes it difficult for Green Bay with missing their tackles, with Aaron Rodgers injured, to move the football. And I think we see the Rams offense get back on track. They should be able to run the ball effectively, and Matthew Stafford throw the ball deep. I don't believe that there is any significant weather issues. It's going to be cold as hell and maybe a little windy, but nothing insane in Green Bay. So I've got the Rams as a best bet. And I agree with you. I think if you like the Rams, you should take them now, because it's more than likely going to move towards LA as sort of the week goes on and we get closer to the weekend. So and how are we going to do this parlay? We're just going to, I guess, try and find Pete's bets that fit.
We're going to come up with it ourselves, and we're going to ignore Pete. So when it hits, he doesn't get any more say in the parlay moving forward.
I say screw Pete for this week.
All right. Well, do you want to throw the Rams in a parlay?
Let's do it.
Let's start the parlay party now. Actually, scrolling through this, we may we may have a pretty big parlay, but
we're not gonna put them all in there.
All right, why not? I thought about doing it's Thanksgiving right now, so I guess I can mention it. But I mean, I thought about doing you know what? I'm not going to talk about Thanksgiving parlays. There's a picture for that. People can go listen to it. Eagles -3 at the Giants, over under 46.5. The Giants, of course, on Monday Night Football looked absolutely horrendous. The Bucs snuffed them out, and it really should have been a bigger beatdown than it was. The Giants scored just 10 points, and on Tuesday afternoon, parted ways, relieved Jason Garrett of his duties. Look, I actually don't like the fact that they relieved Jason Garrett of his duties, because I would have preferred Philadelphia, who's now -3.5 at New York, be able to go up against the Giants, with Jason Garrett calling the plays and running Saquon Barkley into the middle of the line over and over again until he just changed his mind, decided to run Devontae Booker into the middle of the line. Regardless, though, I still like the Eagles here. We've seen Jalen Hurts. They are running the football. I mean, this guy is a dual threat runner. Debo called him one of the 10 greatest running quarterbacks in the history of professional football. We were aghast at the statement and then looked it up, and he might not be wrong just in terms of early production, his ability as a runner. They're getting healthier on the offensive line, and they're healthy on the defensive line. They are running the football with alacrity, and I think this is a bad setup for the New York Football Giants at home, coming off that short week, ugly loss where they got beat up by the Bucs.
Did Debo make that statement before or after he saw that Tom Brady run on Monday night?
Oh man, what a run that was! It was the Giselle Gazelle got loose, man.
I put Brady number 9 and Hurts probably number 10 at this point. Yeah, the Philly offense is a problem for defenses. It dominated a great rush defense in New Orleans, and the Giants have been bad against the run. So you figure they're just going to keep on rolling here. The Giants offense is getting healthier, but it's not translating to positives on the field. I agree with you that it can improve with no Garrett. I think he was an issue. I have a best bet. You have a best bet. Eagles -3. People are going to be listening to this. The line's probably going to be higher than that. I wouldn't play it if it was higher than 3. And if it gets to a point where the Giants are +4.5, I mean, I might look to play the Giants the other way, thinking that they're going to be better offensively with somebody else calling those shots. And for a 4.5-point divisional game on the road, either Philly is really good or the Giants are really bad. Neither one of those seem possible. But I think it might be a little bit of recency bias, and they're a little bit closer than the market is thinking, especially if Darius Slay is dealing with a concussion. If he can't play, it'll be easier for the Giants receivers to have success. So I would think this be a little bit closer of a game. But at 3, I think Eagles win by 3 or 4 or maybe a little bit more. But we might see a little bit of fight out of the Giants now that they're switching offensive coordinators. We put these picks in before the Garrett news happened. So I'm going with 3 for now, but I don't love it. I'm probably not going to play it on Sportsline. And if it gets a little higher, I might think about playing the Giants.
So just looking back to the 2018 Cleveland Browns, trying to remember when Todd Haley was fired. Was it I'm trying to think of when Freddie Kitchens took over exactly. Let's see, Todd Haley. I forgot that Todd Haley was fired by the Browns. God, that 2018 Browns team was incredible. So it looks like he was fired on he's fired on October 29th. So that he's fired after they lost to the Steelers and they fell to 2-5-1. They scored 21 points against the Chiefs the next week, 28 points in a win against the Falcons. The following week after that, then their bye. Then they scored 13 points against the Texans. That doesn't seem real. 26, 17, 26, 24. So better with Freddie Kitchens, who we believe will be the offensive coordinator in New York for the Giants. I think he's the only guy with offensive play calling experience on that team. And while this podcast will certainly have quite a few chuckles about the Giants going from Jason Garrett to Freddie Outhouse, you can make the case that Kitchens is actually an upgrade for this team. The rushing offense, I don't know. I'm just looking at the passing numbers. There's nothing really consistent about what this team did from an offensive standpoint once he took over. But I would think he'll be more creative about moving receivers around. In particular, we saw him really move around Jarvis Landry when he took over. And I would guess that he sort of tries to do that with Kadarius Toney, who is one of the twitchiest guys in the league right now. Does Freddie Kitchens concern you at all with the Eagles' best bet?
Yeah, if he's the offensive coordinator, like I said, I think that the offense has nowhere to go but up because they came into the year with a lot of talent. I know Barkley's been hurt and you can't count on him, but Tony proved to be in flashes, very dynamic receiver, has a little Tyreek Hill in him. So you want somebody that can get him to that level and develop him to that level and become one of the best receivers in the game and a dangerous weapon that you have to count for on every play. That just hasn't happened except for that one game. We've been all waiting for that since then. So you get Garrett out of there, get somebody who has a chance of maximizing that, because I don't think you can do worse than Garrett right now, which is going to make it all the worse if the Bears, who apparently aren't firing Matt Nagy, according to Matt Nagy as of Tuesday, the people on Thursday or Friday listening might be like, well, I guess Matt Nagy was wrong because he's fired at this point. Who knows what's going to happen? Who knows what's going to happen in the next few days? But I think if you're the Bears, you got to fire him now so you can get a jump on Jason Garrett coaching search. You can get him in the building. And if another team hires him as a head coach, oh my God! At this point.
But before you do that, RJ, you got to let this Giant season play out to see if you want to hire Freddie Kitchens as your head coach in Chicago, or maybe you bring him as a tandem Kitchens and Garrett. Co-head coaches for the first time in history. Is it like the Bears need to sink lower? They haven't sunk low enough. And frankly, like I know that we're not talking about the Bears because they've already played, or they are about to play, or already played for most of the people who are listening to this. But the Bears fans who started chanting fire Nagy at the Bulls game, that's funny. That's amusing. It's a bunch of Chicago people getting mad, starting a fire Nagy chant. The people who did it at his kids' football game, come on, man. That is terrible. Nagy is there as a dad, as like a father, watching his son play. People are chanting "Fire Nagy" at a freaking high school game. I mean, look, I'm all for empowering fans and like and taking down bad coaches, but that is classless. I'm sure they deserve a whole lot more.
And I guarantee you, every one of those people chanting in that stadium deserves to be shouted "Fire you" at them for some of the things that they do at their job. The type of people that would do that, you got to figure they aren't like the best employees or the most stand-up individuals in society. So somebody follow them around and scream, fire this guy because he's terrible.
That would actually be fun to see. Just people kind of like just tracked down by strangers in the street. Fire! I guess people chant Brinson sucks in this podcast all the time, so I'm not sure that I should even be. Yeah. Jerks. At any rate, I don't know if do we want to put the Eagles in this parlay?
No. One of the reasons I say no is we're picking it at 3, and it just doesn't feel legit for us to throw it at 3 into parlay when nobody else is going to be able to take it.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for that. Thank you.
Good point. All right, next up.
All right, it's in now.
All right, yeah, let's put it in now just to troll Deep. Pete would want us to do it. The Panthers -1.5 at the Dolphins and over under of 42. This game was a pick'em Sunday night, Monday morning, maybe. The Panthers coming off a rough defensive game against the Washington football team, played really poorly against Taylor Heineke, or maybe Taylor Heineke played really well. And the Panthers offensive line was not good in this game either. But Cam Newton is a massive, massive upgrade over Sam Darnold at the quarterback position. The Dolphins are not a good football team. And, they are, coming off of a win against a bad Jets team. But it wasn't exactly an easy win. This line has moved to Panthers -1.5 now. And I think the Panthers can go down there to South Beach, and barring some sort of South Beach hangover, which happens frequently for sports teams across across every single league, I think Carolina should be able to run the ball, get Christian McCaffrey involved in the pass game, use Cam Newton's legs. He's got another week with the playbook. I think the defense bounces back and really limits. Like, Tua had a good game, but not a great game against a horrible Jets defense. The Panthers are a much, much better team than the Jets. I think that the Panthers should be a 3-point favorite here, and I love the Panthers as a best bet.
I don't think it was a great game. I mean, teams are putting up 45 on the Jets, 45. And the Dolphins, they were favored by 3.5 and they covered. So I guess you look at it that way and you're like, okay, they beat expectations. So it was a good game for them. Like, I don't know. They didn't really look great. And you can house the Jets if you're a decent team. The Bills offense hasn't looked great. I'm sure people, hopefully they look better on Thursday night now that people are listening to this, but I have worries about that offense, and they put up 45 on the Jets. So I'm not impressed by the Dolphins at all after what we saw last week. Carolina's defense is excellent versus the pass, but struggles against the run. However, Miami doesn't run the ball much, and when they do, they don't run very well. So if Miami's going to keep to their normal game plan in this game, I think Carolina's defense could eat them up. Miami's defense playing well, but defending an offense that runs through Christian McCaffrey doesn't play to their strengths. Having to chase down Cam. Cam played well, but the Carolina offense, like I think you were right, will continue to open up as he gets more reps, gets more familiar with it. There's better days ahead. Even with that loss, I moved him up 2 points in my power ratings just because I think that the offense is going to get better and better as he gets more familiar. And I'm okay with the defense having a bad game here and there. It happens with these defenses, but I still think they're a really good defense for the most part. And when you play a bad team like the Dolphins, you should dominate that game. So I have Carolina as a best bet. You have Carolina as a best bet. Pete has Carolina as a best bet. I think Carolina has to go into the parlay, even though we're not getting as good a number here as I got on sports. I know I took it to pick them on Monday, but 1.5. I think they win this game.
Yeah, I think I actually I bet the Panthers for. Let me look and see, confirm. I'm pretty sure I bet them for. Yep. No, just 1 unit. I had the Rams for 2 units, but yeah, the Rams, Panthers, and Panthers were like my 2 favorite bets when I was looking at this on Monday night Monday night and sort of trying to figure out what games I wanted to bet on this week. And I thought that Panthers game was going to move too. It has. I mean, the other thing we could do is bet the money line and put that in the parlay instead.
No, we're hitting these spreads. We'll just be consistent and do what we've been doing instead of having to worry about, what was our payout because we did a -130 instead of a -110, which kind of know that they're basically, if you're putting 3 teams in, it's 6-1 and you don't have to do too much math besides that.
All right, fair enough. Panthers -1.5 goes in the parlay. Pete has them, as we mentioned, Pete has them as a best bet as well. So that's a clean sweep for the 3 of us. Not so much in this next game. The Patriots -5.5. That's our number. I think it may have moved up to 6.5 on Caesars. I know I saw 6.5 on my local. I love the Patriots this week. They are hosting the Tennessee Titans -5.5. The over under 45.5. Mac Jones in his first 6 weeks of the season, 2-4 record. Yep, moved to 6.5 as you can see there. He was attempting 35.2 passes per game in the first 6 weeks, completing 71% of them, and 245 yards per game, 7 yards per attempt, but 7 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. The last 5 weeks, the Patriots have tried to take stuff off of Mac's plate and minimize the number of times he's throwing. He's down to 27.6 attempts per game, 68.8% completion, just 213 yards, but 7.7 yards per attempt, 7 touchdowns and 2 interceptions in that stretch. The Patriots are 5-0. I think what we have here is very clearly a case of the Patriots sort of identifying what they want to be on offense, and their offensive identity is pounding the football, creative in the run game, Mac Jones converting in big spots, being efficient, not making mistakes, not turning the ball over. He has responded in a big way. I think maybe the competition's been a little bit easier too, but New England is rolling right now, and I understand that the Titans Titans are Jekyll and Hyde. They beat good teams. I think 7-0 against teams with or teams who would currently be in the playoffs, and then they lost to the Texans and the Jets, so it's really weird. And Mike Vrabel, undefeated against Bill Belichick in his coaching career. I don't care. Belichick is cooking right now. The Pats know who they are. They know what they want to be. They know how they want to attack you, and they are playing some really good defense. The Titans have no rush attack really at the moment, and I think New England turns this into a one-dimensional team. And when you do that against Tennessee, they're going to have to funnel everything through A.J. Brown. Right? And everything, like Belichick's going to take away A.J. Brown. He's just going to put 2 dudes on A.J. Brown and force Ryan Tannehill to beat him with like Keeney Westbrook and Chester Rogers and other players that they don't need. Plus, Jonnu Smith revenge game. RJ, what you think?
Gotta love the revenge games. Like you can't get through a segment without a revenge game. So you have this as Patriots as a best bet. Pete has it as Titans as a best bet. We're grading it at 5.5. So when it lands on 6, Pete can't go, well, it was 6.5. And you're like, no, like it's 6. Right. Brinson wins that one. It's going up, and you can see why. If he gets a 7, I kind of like Tennessee, and I'd be on the Pete side. Tennessee was due to be exposed, but you're not going to have 5 turnovers very often, and they actually pretty much outplayed Houston. All facets of the game in that one, except for the turnovers. And Houston had 190 yards of offense. They had 3 scoring drives with that totaled 1 yard. So it's not like they had to do much to get those points. I don't see a beat up Tennessee offense scoring points, but I think the defense is playing well. They played well against Houston, and I think they can play well against Mac Jones, keep this close. You say they're taking stuff off his plate. He doesn't have to do much. I mean, in the second half, he doesn't have to do anything if they're up, double digits every single game. So that's part of why he's not throwing is he doesn't have to. The second half, they're just way ahead of these teams. Maybe they'll be like that against the Titans because that offense might be a little train wrecky here. But I think the defense can have a good game here. I think New England is definitely legit at this point. I'm not saying that they're overrated by any means, but it feels like a rock fight, low-scoring rock fight. They win by 4 to me, not a blowout game. So line looking up, like I said, I'll play it if Tennessee hits a 7 because I think that two good defenses, that there's some value playing against that big a number.
And for what it's worth, I agree completely with your point about Mac Jones. The Patriots have been thrashing teams, so he hadn't had to play. He hadn't had to do a whole lot in the second half. And it is annoying to I was going to love the Patriots. I didn't want the Titans to lose to the Texans because I wanted to love the Patriots in the spot. And, it sort of, shell shocks them. Maybe they come back just like they did after the Jets lost and realistic wins, albeit no Derrick Henry now. And then the other thing is the line moved, 3.5 points from the look at it. It was Pats -3 before. I don't like losing that kind of value and taking the Pats -5.5, but I don't care. I just believe in this Pats team, and they know 2 games before their bye, Titans and Bills. Bill Belichick's just trying to go 1-0 each week, and I know that's like stupid, coach speak or whatever, but I think he's got this team in a spot where they know how important this game is for the conference, and they know how important next week is for the division, and just take it one game at a time. I think they'll come out looking quite sharp.
So the Titans don't know that, right? They don't know.
Titans do not know that. That's correct. Titans are unaware of it.
Interesting.
If
they should get a new coach then.
What's that?
They should get a new coach then. If they're not aware how big this game is.
Don't. Hopefully they're not listening to this podcast on Friday. They drive home for their family, whatever they do with their families over Thanksgiving. Whatever people in Nashville eat. I guess you eat hot chicken. What do you think?
Yeah, it's got to be hot chicken. I want to apologize too. I didn't have the Johnny Smith revenge game in my notes. I didn't think it warranted mentioning because I didn't think it was that big, but apparently you do. So I should have mentioned it.
Always mention revenge. Belichick revenge game against Vrabel. It's who knocked Tom Brady, ended Tom Brady's the dynasty. He ended the dynasty.
Don't the Patriots have or don't the Titans have a practice squatter that played for the Patriots at one time that we can call it a revenge game for him too, and we can cancel it out?
I'm pretty sure there are a lot of players on the Titans who played for the Patriots. Same thing. It's like the Panthers in Washington and Buffalo. It's just all over the place. Browns at Ravens. Ravens -4, over under 46.5. The Baker Mayfield stuff. Actually, I'll let you go first on this one because I don't have a best bet on this, but you and Pete both do.
Yeah, I'm speaking for Pete because we are both on Cleveland +4 as a best bet. It's hard to get a handle on Cleveland week to week. It's down to 3.5 now, so it seems like the sharps are on our side. If it gets any lower than that, I don't really love Cleveland. But I think the offense has scored 17 or less in 5 of their 6 games. The Browns just aren't a good offense, and I'm ready to write them off, and then they have like a 41-point explosion out of nowhere. So I just don't know with this offense. I'm not confident that Baker can exploit a Baltimore pass defense that has struggled in big spots this year. So maybe he is able to do much because of how he's looked in that passing game. Baltimore's offense should be much better as long as key pieces aren't getting surprisingly ruled out like they were last week. And Baltimore's defense has been much better against the run than the pass. So it seems like I'm arguing for Baltimore, but they really haven't been tested much, and Cleveland will test them. Cleveland's number 1 in yards per rush, has more rush attempts than pass attempts. They are going to run the ball no matter what. So I think that once you put that onto the Ravens, you get the Ravens they have issues tackling. If Chubb can get to the second level, I mean, he could be breaking tackles and getting long touchdowns, a couple of them, and big long plays because Ravens just are not a good tackling team. And the key thing to me, the reason that put me on Cleveland is I think their defensive line can have success against a Baltimore offensive line that we know has had some issues. They Ronnie Stanley out for the year. You get Myles Garrett lined up against those tackles. I think he can feast and really put Lamar at unease the whole game. And the Ravens really aren't really able to get anything going on offense. So if the Cleveland defense is keeping the team in the game, the run game can wear Baltimore down, and Cleveland can come in and get to win. But I want to get at least 3. I want it to be a low-scoring, late-season divisional fight that some team wins by 3. And if I can get 3 or 4 in our case with the Browns, I like it. Once you get closer to 3, I don't like it as much.
For sure. And like you said, we had 4.5 on this best bet. Looking like a pretty windy Windy day in Baltimore. I mean, nothing crazy, but just 46 degree, high of 46. It's just going to be cold. It doesn't look like any rain. Oh, excuse me, no. It's going to be more like 50, in the 50s on Sunday right now, with actually not a lot of wind. I was looking at Saturday, my fault. Slight chance of rain, but not a ton. 20% chance of rain. It just, I mean, it does have a rock fight feel to it, though. Nick Chubb, 5 rushing touchdowns in his career against the Baltimore Ravens. That is the most of any team he's gone against. I believe that, if you look at his numbers for his career against, like, career splits against Baltimore, they're not great, but that's primarily because of his rookie season when he had, I think, 3 carries for 2 yards and 9 carries for 24 yards against him. He's got several explosive games against Baltimore, or at least one. The one I always think about is from 2019 when he he's got two big games against Baltimore. That 2019 game where he had 165 yards and 3 touchdowns. And you remember Baker's doing the helicopter thing up the sideline. You could see them just leaning into this. And as you point out, Baltimore, not a great tackling team. The rushing attack there with Chubb and the Browns, Jonas Johnson should be a factor as well. They will. Yeah, I'm with you on the Browns. I don't love them, but I think I will take Cleveland catching the points, because I don't think it'll be a blowout. For whatever reason, this Browns team, like, right when you think they're going to get torched by the Ravens, they somehow find a way to, like, pull off a very surprising win. And I don't think people are particularly high on Cleveland right now. So I will buy the dip on Cleveland, as the crypto kids like to say.
We got a little breaking news, semi-Browns related. Freddie Kitchens will call plays for the Giants per source, according to Kim Jones. So
I saw
Freddie
that.
Kitchens is the guy.
I was going to let you know. So that's right. Freddie Kitchens in charge of the Giants offense. Glad we don't want to mess with Freddie.
This is
his funk of Freddie.
This is his chance to get a head coaching job. Show what you can do here in the last few weeks.
Stop it. If you had to have one for the Bills for your team, would you rather have Freddie Kitchens or Jason Garrett?
I'd pick a new team.
You just quit football?
Yeah. I'd go dive in.
Jason Garrett, but you don't feel good about it.
I mean, I'd go dive into my college team and hybrid for the Longhorns. I probably wouldn't do that either.
Maybe just stay with baseball.
I'd start scouting the XFL for that return and see who I want to root for there.
The Falcons are a pick'em at the Jaguars, over under 46.5. This line actually might have moved a little bit as well. Same sort of principle here as the Panthers at the Dolphins. You don't like taking these ugly teams on the road, slight favorites. Certainly, you'd rather be catching points, but Jacksonville's terrible. And while Atlanta is terrible as well, we have seen the Falcons all season long have beat up on bad teams. And still a pick 'em. Okay, there you go. At Caesars, still a pick 'em. The Falcons, if you look at their wins, the Giants they only beat by 3. The Jets they beat by a touchdown. The Dolphins they beat, they snuck one against the Saints. Otherwise, they scored 3 points in their last 2 weeks. But it was against the Cowboys and the Patriots, 2 defenses that are playing well, plus the Dan Quinn revenge factor there in Dallas. This is not a good football team in Atlanta. Calvin Ridley is off the whatever list he was placed on, but is not expected to come back. Arthur Smith did not have an update on his status. I still think we can see the Falcons and Kyle Pitts and Matt Ryan put up enough points here to, Cordell Patterson should be back for this game to just take care of business against Jacksonville. It's an away game, but it's not really far. Atlanta to Jacksonville, hop and skip in terms of the drive there. Maybe you fly. I guess you could fly. It's not far. And so you're not dealing with a ton of that stuff coming off of Thanksgiving. Pretty easy to handle. I just think the Falcons are a better team, and Jacksonville is probably getting too much credit here for whatever reason, I guess for just being at home, or maybe because they hung with the Colts and beat the Bills in the last 3 weeks.
So Kyle Pitts went to Florida. Urban Meyer once coached at Florida. So some revenge game. I know they weren't together, but maybe there's a revenge game.
Kyle Pitts homecoming game. That's not revenge game. Homecoming game.
Homecoming game. Okay. So
not for Urban, because he lives there. So you can't be a homecoming game if you're always there.
I have the Falcons as a best bet at Pick'em, but I don't agree that it's like the Panthers game, because I think the Panthers could be a good team, and I know the Falcons aren't a good team. But improving Jacksonville rush defense just got gashed by San Francisco. But even though that Jacksonville defense is improving against the run, Atlanta's not going to run much anyway. That's not what they do. Atlanta's weapons look mediocre, but I'm not sure Jacksonville's defense can contain Kyle Pitts or Cordell Patterson in the passing game. Even if most other teams can, I just don't think Jacksonville has anybody to really cover anyone. Atlanta's defense was solid versus New England. So I don't think they had as terrible a game as the scoreboard would indicate. You get those late picks, kind of piled on there at the end. Jacksonville's offense hasn't scored more than 23 all year. They are a tough test for no defense. So even if you have a bad defense, you can have a good game against Jacksonville. Atlanta's looked at a solid team at times this year, like you said, and Jacksonville just needs teams to implode to have a shot at winning games. So like Buffalo did. So maybe that happens for Atlanta here, because they're not a great team, but because of those matchups and them beating up on bad teams, I think they should probably be favored here. I wouldn't lay any points with the Falcons. They're a bad team, but if the line's going to be a pick 'em, I have the Falcons as a best bet.
Yep. I mean, it's as simple as it's not that the Falcons are. Yeah, that's a good point. I'm not saying the Falcons are like the Panthers. I'm just saying that it's like, I think the difference between the Panthers and the Falcons is probably the same between the Dolphins and the Jaguars, right? Like the two NFC South teams, I think, are much better than the two Florida teams, respectively, in their matchups. That's why I want to go with Atlanta in that spot. Let's take a break.
Pete also has a best bet on this game on the under.
Oh, good call. Do we want to put the Falcons in the parlay? So be Falcons, yes. Panthers, Rams. I love that. I almost bet that parlay this morning. Like, I was looking at it on my site and I was like, man, I like that. It's 3 road teams, which you don't love, but it's short spreads. We don't have to, you're not going to get backdoor covered here. It's just go win your game. Beat either an inferior team or a team with a ton of injuries that they're dealing with. Granted, it's on the road after Thanksgiving. I like that parlay.
I kind of like being on the road after Thanksgiving too. It's no distractions of being at home, having to deal with the family, all being at home. You just get on a business road trip and you deal with all that stuff later and put it out of your mind and go play football. So might be good for those teams to get on the road this week.
I don't hate it at all. All right, let's take a break. And when we come back, a few more best bets from myself and RJ. Jets at Texans. What a world. The New York Jets, the Houston Texans are 3-point favorites, RJ. They're 3-point favorites at home against the New York Jets. I don't know if it's going to be, I think it's going to be Mike White starting for the Jets in this spot, but I just don't know how this game it features any sort of favorite. But just make it a pick 'em. It's already down to 2.5 at Caesars. The total here has actually ticked up 0.5 point to 44.5. Can you talk yourself into backing either one of these teams?
Yeah, at 3, which was our line. I have the Jets as a best bet. It's what I got it in on Sportsline. Was at +3. I think, like you nailed it. If either of these teams are 3-point favorites, take the other team, because neither of these teams should be favored in any game. Houston coming off a rare win, but they didn't play particularly well. Like I said, they were just handed all those turnovers, like teams have been doing against Tennessee. They've been handing Tennessee turnovers, and they've been winning because even though the offense hadn't been playing well, and that's what Houston got the benefit of. It all caught up to Tennessee in 1 week. So 3 of Houston's 5 scoring drives, like I said, combined 1 yard of offense. Houston's not going to benefit from 5 turnovers again, and that kind of offense isn't going to cut it. And they're probably going to have a better offensive game against the Jets, because everyone does. The Jets aren't good, but Elijah Moore is really good, and I don't know how Houston slows him down in this game. So this is, I can't make a huge argument for why the Jets are good or why they're going to win this game. It's more a fade against one of the NFL's worst teams laying points. So +3, I love the Jets. You're probably seeing it at less than 3, so I hope you got the 3. But even if you're going to play this, don't lay the points, just play the money line on the Jets, because neither of these teams should be getting plus money on the money line.
I mean, that is the entire argument for taking the Jets, right? Like, it's just the Texans can't be favored by 3 points against any football team in the world. Even like Matt Nagy's son's high school football team, the Texans can't be favored by 3 against, or maybe them. But I mean, the other thing too is the Texans coming off, I don't want to call it their Super Bowl, but I mean, they beat they take down the number 1 seed in the AFC, division rival. Of course, the the Titans left Houston. I mean, not that many people care about that now, but I mean, that's a huge win for the city of Houston. You could tell that the Texans were pumped up about it. Clear cut letdown spot here as they try to get their first win streak under David Culley with a second victory against the New York Jets. But again, they just can't be favored. So for me, I would lean towards the Jets as well, +3. But I agree with you. Like you don't want to take it if you're not getting more than a field goal, right?
Yeah, I play the money line if you want to take the Jets, because if you're getting +115, +120, that you should be getting -110 on both sides. Because like you said, it should be a pick'em. So you want to play anything in this game, just play the money line. You're getting good value there.
Both the Vikings and the 49ers are kind of surging right now, and they square off with the winner of this game likely to find itself in the playoffs, after, if the season ended after week 12, which of course it does not. The 49ers are laying 3 at home, just sort of I don't know, man. I don't know. I got the 49ers as a best bet. I just don't think you can really know what you're going to get with these two teams. And, I would guess that you'll probably lean towards the Vikings catching 3 because Mike Zimmer, every single 8 of the 10 games they played this year, or I think 9 of the 10 games have been 1-score games. And I think 5 of the 8, whatever it is, they've had, because come down to the last play, almost every single week for the Vikings, they've been in really close games. Kirk Cousins is playing pretty well, putting up some good numbers, but I think Jimmy Garoppolo is playing really well too right now. And the 49ers are finally starting to find their identity on offense, starting to click, and they should be able to run the ball effectively against Minnesota here. I don't know that you're going to see Minnesota roll out to the West Coast and slow them down. They're 27th in rush defense DVOA, and that's not a good number, even with a Mike Zimmer coach defense, when you're going up against Kyle Shanahan in this rushing attack. They move guys all over the place. George Kittle playing some good football as well. Such a key component when he's fully healthy in that offense. Brandon Ayuk, who was in the doghouse earlier this season, starting to come around and be a big factor in that offense. And I think this team is sort of starting to take shape in San Francisco as the team we thought we were getting when the season started. So I've got the 49ers as a best bet here.
Yeah, I thought I was going to like Vikings +3. Seems like just take the points with how they're playing. They look good for 2 straight weeks. But then I remembered that means it's time for them to completely flop because they're the Vikings, and that's what they do. They never have a consistent, as soon as you think you have them pegged, they're going to do the opposite. The defense played well against the Chargers, but it struggled against good offenses otherwise. And I think San Francisco is a good offense, and it's kind of undeniable with everybody healthy. They get creative. They use Debo in the backfield with Mitchell out. I don't think that's fair. I don't think you should be allowed to put Debo Samuel in the backfield. It's hard enough to defend him at receiver. Don't let him get in the backfield. It's just not fair to anybody else. And even with him playing back there, the passing game still looks solid because Ayuk had a good game. Kittle's back. So they have enough weapons that they can get away with it, and they're not playing scrubs out there at receiver. So I think San Francisco being a good offense with those guys healthy, Shanahan calling the plays, doing creative things, they're going to give the Vikings some trouble. Like you said, San Francisco's defense coming off 2 great games. Minnesota has the weapons to succeed against the defense, even against those games, if they avoid their periodic flop that they have every so often. But I kind of think this might be the game where they flop. I don't want to take either of these teams. I don't know what I'm going to get from either of these teams. I would lean to the 49ers if I had to pick it, but it is going to be a stay away from me.
All right, and you can see there on Caesars, the juice is up to 115 on the 49ers. It looks like elsewhere. Yeah, that's just the standard number out there. So I mean, if you like the Niners, may want to get it now because it's possible it goes to 3.5. Obviously, prefer 3 to 3.5 is a pretty important number when it comes to NFL games. No best bet for Pete there. Steelers at the Bengals. Bengals are -3.5. This game actually may have moved up to 4.5, which would be a little surprising. Over under of 45. Pete Prisco is the best bet on the Bengals here. I think I tend to lean towards him. Big Ben has owned the Bengals for much of his career. He's been awful against them the last 2 games, averaging 5.1 yards per attempt with a 67.5 passer rating, 0-2. He's never lost 3 straight games to the Bengals in his career. Do you think it happens here, RJ?
Since he won in Pittsburgh in week 3, are they really going to sweep them? I mean, I think it's been 2009 since they swept them in a year, in a season. The market obviously got a preview of Pete's picks, and everybody jumped on Cincy at 3.5 because it's up to 4.5 now. Well, in the future, you might have a little more clarity on who's going to play in this game, and especially on the Pittsburgh defensive side, and the line might be a little bit different. Once you get to 4.5, I like the Steelers. the defense, I think, is going to have at least two of those guys back on defense, Minka and Watt. And I know they're all going to practice with Hayden. They played awful last week without them, and I thought they would be okay defensively. I didn't think they were going to be good, but when you're losing stars like that, I thought they had enough depth to overcome that. But they were just trash against the Chargers. So it'll be great to have them back. Since he succeeded with the run last week, that's where Pittsburgh defense is struggling. So that's what you want to do. So if they come out and they run the ball again, I think they could have success. But that's kind of atypical for their offense. They typically don't build things around the run. They like to throw the ball. Pittsburgh's offense surprisingly struggled to run the ball against the Chargers. I think they're the first team ever to struggle at running the ball against the Chargers.
Yeah, really.
And
it was Najee too. And I mean, I guess the offensive lines are very good, but still.
Yeah, I figured the Steelers were locked, handed to Najee 25 times in that game, and they just didn't. But they had 3 super short scoring drives, so I don't want to read too much into the point total they put up because they're kind of gifted in some field position in the fourth quarter. Since he does feel like the better team right now, so I get where you guys are coming from. I think a healthier Pittsburgh defense makes this a closer one. It's like that Ravens-Browns game, the AFC North late season rock fight, low scoring. So I like getting more than 3 points with either of these teams. Then when you extend it to 4.5, really like getting the Steelers at plus 4.5 because it just seems like it's going to be 3 points either way.
Look, that's a fair point. I mean, you say it out loud. Are the Bengals going to sweep the Steelers? And it sure, it doesn't seem like something that you would expect. I don't have the Bengals as the best bet. Pete does, and he's getting 3.5. We won't bump him up to 4.5. We'll be kind about that. Joe Burrow is playing really well right now. It's a little swoon midseason, but he started to pick it back up. The Joe Mixon career high, I believe, in rushing yards last week. So he's they're starting to find it offensively again. I do agree with you. The defensive injuries matter. Minka and TJ Watt back make that Steelers team a lot better. I mean, Cameron Hayward was doing everything, including punching Justin Herbert for some bizarre reason.
Yes. Yeah, I heard you guys talking about that. Like the camera angles I saw, I wasn't too dialed in, but it seemed to me like he was off balance. I don't think it didn't seem like a malicious.
I didn't think he was
like I want to punch this guy in the stomach for something. I just think that he might have got nudged on the camera angle. You couldn't really see, or he just didn't have his balance and he just kind of fell on him. So I think it was just the way he fell on him. It looked worse than it probably was in his intent.
Yeah, Cameron Hayward's not the dude to just randomly punch a quarterback. That's not like his style. So I agree. I'll take the Bengals. Getting a little nervous taking it, but I think I will take the Bengals, but not as a best bet. Lean towards the Bengals. Pete Prisco has them as a best bet. Oh, by the way, Dalvin Tomlinson placed on the reserve COVID list by the Vikings. That's a factor against the 49ers. In fact, that might move it to 3.5. I'm not saying that Dalvin Tomlinson's worth 0.5 point, but it's an interior starting defensive lineman. That's a problem when you're going up against San Francisco.
We'll see. I mean, they didn't need their pass rushers the last couple of weeks when I thought that was going to be a problem, and they've been overcoming that. So maybe they'll overcome this.
Maybe so. Buccaneers minus 2.5 at the Colts, over under 51.5. This is one of 2 games we're going to talk about in the next minute or so, or next few minutes. Road favorites that, frankly, and you can see if you're watching on YouTube, youtube.com/pick6. If you are watching, by the way, smash that like button. The Buccaneers appear to be headed towards 3 on the spread. This game and the next game we're going to talk about are rancid. Why are the Buccaneers only favored by 3? I know the Colts are good. They're playing great football. How can the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, is it just because they're on the road and Tom Brady hadn't been as good on the road? Or are they coming off the big Monday night game on a short week? I don't get it, RJ. I've got the Buccaneers as a best bet. I thought that they would be like 4 or 5 point favorites. 2.5 is not enough for what the Buccaneers can do. Especially when you consider that Vita Vea is going to be back in this game. The Colts' whole thing is running the football with Jonathan Taylor right now. That's their identity, and they're doing it really well. 5 touchdowns last game. Carson Wentz didn't have to do anything in that game because it was a blowout against the Bills. I think this is just a poor matchup for the Colts in terms of what they want to do against a team that is very good against the run. I like the Buccaneers big here.
Yeah, you know what you sound like. You're talking like that. You sound like somebody that picked the Saints against the Eagles, saying that's their identity is the run.
Last week. Right? Yeah.
Identity is the run. This is what they do, and this is the defense to stop them. And I just can't assume that Indy's going to have a tougher time running in this matchup after what Philly did in New Orleans. If you're really good at that, then maybe you can beat these the supposedly tough matchups. You can overcome them. The Indy defense is unlikely to generate 4 takeaways versus Tom Brady like they did last week. So I just don't think that's going to happen. Indy's defense coming off a great game, has struggled plenty this year too. I mean, remember that Jets game? They gave up 30 in that game a couple weeks ago. If Indy offense can't rush for 260 yards again, like they did 2 of the last 3 weeks, can Wentz keep up if Brady's slinging it? I doubt it. So I would lean to the Bucs too at -2.5. I don't love it really. Tampa Bay secondary got Murphy Bunting back ahead of the Giants game. I thought that was going to help them finally get healthier, and they didn't give up a ton of points. Maybe it did, but he didn't look particularly great. Maybe a week later now he'll be better after getting a week of reps there. It does feel like laying less than 3 on Brady in a matchup of Brady versus Wentz is great value any way you slice it. I just think this Colts team, aside from Wentz, and Wentz isn't playing that poorly. I said it last week. Like, he has 3 interceptions on the year. We think that he's a bad quarterback and he's kind of holding them back, but he's played perfectly fine. And he's giving the Colts what they need is a competent quarterback protecting the ball, and let the offensive line, the run game, the defense all go to work because they have a good team around them. So I disagree that this line doesn't make sense. I have the Buccaneers as the number 1 team in my power ratings at 7 points above average, and that's a 1.5 better than anyone else. I have the Colts at this point at 2.5 points above average because I think they're getting better. They're playing so well with the running game and the defense and the offensive line that I think that they're up there with those teams like the Patriots, Ravens, Chargers, kind of in that good tier of AFC teams, and maybe the Patriots are a little bit ahead of that group at this point. But I think the Colts kind of deserve to be that. And if you make it that and make the line how I said, you give 2 points to the Colts for home field advantage at this point in time. Line's 2.5 at that point. So the line makes sense to me. I don't think there's great value on Tampa. That's why I didn't jump on at 2.5, but I'm going to lean that way just because I see Brady versus Wentz and you're getting less than 3. It makes sense for me to lay that point, those 2.5 points at that point.
Yeah, exactly. That's sort of my thought process, but that's a good way of explaining it, that the line actually does make sense. However, if the action is so one-sided on Tampa, you'll see that line move up, right? We could get 3. I mean, it's going to go to 3, I would think. Maybe 3.5, but at 3.5, you'll probably get a bunch of buyback on the Colts from people, from sharps who believe that the Colts are legitimate. And as you point out, I mean, this defense is 9th overall in DVOA for the Colts, 2nd against the run. That is actually better than the Buccaneers, who are 4th against the run. The Buccaneers are 7th against the pass, though. Tampa has the number 7 defense by DVOA overall, and then the Colts have shot all the way up to number 2 in terms of rush offense in DVOA rankings. I mean, they're running the ball really well. Quentin Nelson suffered an injury, but appears to be fine. I don't think he's expected to miss any time. So yeah, I mean, look, the Colts could pound the ball, and I mean, we've seen weirder things than Tom Brady losing to Indianapolis, but dome game. I think he'll play well.
And I'll also point out the public doesn't see this as like a ridiculous line. That doesn't make any sense because only 58% of the tickets are on Tampa Bay at this point. It's not one of those 90-10 matchups. Like, what are we doing here with this line? It's just public is so clearly on one side. I think that it kind of makes sense for them. The next game we're going to talk about, they're a lot more weighted on the favorite, the road favorite.
Okay. The next one is Chargers at the Broncos. Chargers coming off a big win against the Steelers on Sunday Night Football. Sunday Night Football, in which Justin Herbert nearly passed for 300 and rushed for 100 yards. As is the case with Tampa Bay, this is a very juiced 2.5 that the Chargers are favored, -2.5, -120, with a total of 47.5 in Denver. Do you? Is this a letdown spot for LA? Are you surprised? I mean, are you surprised by this line? What do your numbers say this line should be?
Well, real quick, I don't know if we said it, but Pete has also wanted the Bucs with you, so he had.
You're right. Bet. Sorry, yeah.
So I think that's his last best bet. I just wanted to make sure people knew that's where he went. I think there's a tiny bit of value on Denver. My line makes it Chargers +2. I do think it's going to get to 3. Obviously, the way that it's at -120 right now, so people listening to this, it might already be 3, and you can think about taking Denver there if you like Denver. Chargers dominated Pittsburgh for much of that game. They still need a big play at the end to win, and it seems like the Chargers don't run away from anyone. And I don't have confidence laying points with a team on the road that has trouble running away from bad opponents. I want to be able to take points with the Chargers, knowing that offense is so good that they can overcome tough matchups sometimes and win those games. But I don't like laying points with the Chargers. Denver has severe issues on the offensive line, though. They were on display versus Philadelphia. Now Garrett Bowles, who was probably going to be healthy coming out of the bye, he's on the COVID list. So if he doesn't play, they're still down another key offensive lineman. But if they can get their offensive line sorted out, I think that Denver offense can have success against the Chargers defense. 25th in points per drive, If they can run the ball on them, I know that the Chargers just had a good run defense game, but that doesn't mean they're a good run defense when you do it once. You got to repeat that. So we'll see if Denver can get the running game going with their running backs and take a little bit of the pressure off Bridgewater, not have to stand back there for 3rd and longs with a leaky offensive line. Fangio had D playing very well before the Philadelphia game. I think they could find that success again in this big matchup. This is going to get pushed to 3, like I said. Herbert dominated. People are betting Chargers. I'm hoping it gets to 3.5, and I'm probably going to be on Denver at 3.5.
Yeah, 3.5. I agree with you on the Chargers. They can't close anybody out. If they do get a lead here, though, man, Teddy B or Drew Lock slinging it. I guess they have enough weapons in the secondary where they can get that done. Denver, if they come into this game trying to attack via the run, we can see Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams. Melvin Gordon revenge game. Don't sleep on that.
Number 1 factor. Melvin Gordon revenge game, Denver money line.
Melvin Gordon against a bad run defense and a team that needs to run in a division matchup. That might be a DFS play on Sunday for yours truly. Of course, we'll get to those Well, no, we actually don't do a DFS show. You should check out Fantasy Football Today DFS. Those guys do a killer job breaking down everything you need to know about the DFS action for each week. We'll have Thursdays. We'll have Thanksgiving's DFS stuff in the feed. But yeah, I would take the Chargers there, particularly if it's 2.5. But I agree with you at 3.5. The Chargers have opened up so much backdoor potential that I probably wouldn't want to be on them. Finally,
I have some breaking news too. Chris Harris apparently played for the Broncos as well. So now he's a Charger. So, maybe that's a Chris Harris revenge game. So I want to retract my Melvin Gordon number 1 revenge game as the number 1 factor. I think that now that I know that Chris Harris used to play for the Broncos, that
I can confirm that Chris Harris played for the Broncos.
So I just didn't want to sneak by without having all the revenge game angles covered.
The Chris Harris revenge angle neutralizes to a degree the Melvin Gordon revenge game angle, but it does set up well for Melvin Gordon. I could see them giving him 25 carries against his old team just to spite them and the 200 rushing yards from Melvin Gordon. And then no one will be laughing at my revenge game narrative so much on Sunday afternoon. Monday night. What? By the way, I sort of screwed this up. I didn't realize what I'm assuming there's a Sunday night football game. Sunday night football game that was Browns at Ravens. Ooh, big spot. Monday night, though, Seahawks, the lowly 3-7 Seahawks, travel to Washington to play the 4-6 football team, which is suddenly kind of picking up the play here over the last 2 weeks. Washington has won 2 straight games after looking like it was completely bottoming out, including a massive revenge game for Ron Rivera and Taylor Heineke. I'm trying to find the WFT. You can't look them up on Pro Football Reference anymore because they're not the Washington, or what do they even call them? Washington football team. Is that what I have to call them on Pro Football Reference? The week before they had beaten the, of course, reigning world champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers 21-19 at home. So 2 huge wins. They lost 4 straight going into the bye against the Saints, Chiefs, Packers, and Broncos. Come out and beat the Bucs and the Panthers. Those are massive wins. And they have another home game here against Seattle in a primetime spot. Seattle actually opened as a favorite. And I was arguing with our pal, Nick Costos, who claimed that his numbers said Seattle should be -3. I disagree wholeheartedly and think Washington should have been favored. Obviously, I'm right here. Nick wrong per usual. Now, I would change my tune a little bit if we knew that Russell Wilson's hand was going to magically be better and he would start playing better. But his completion percentage is in the toilet. The offense is not. The offense is slow, predictable, bad. I get that this is maybe a breakout spot for Seattle against a questionable secondary that's been questionable all year, and some of the worst secondary play in football all year, in fact. But I just don't think I can buy Seattle playing a good game on offense. I know they're going to play a good game on defense until we actually see Russell do it.
Yeah, you'd have liked to see any sign of hope from Seattle the last 2 weeks to think that they deserve to be even a pick 'em in this game. My lean here is to Washington, coming off back-to-back outright wins as underdogs. They're hitting their stride right now. Seattle's offense looks broken. Defense couldn't stop Colt McCoy and failed in a must-win spot. They had to have that game last week. and they did not show up. So don't like them moving forward. And I think everybody's kind of gotten to the fact that Seattle is not a good team at this point. In fact, as we were recording, they got flexed out of the Sunday night game the next week. They were supposed to be 49ers Seahawks. The following week, Sunday Night Football, they flexed it out and they put Broncos Chiefs in as that. So maybe Seattle takes that as a sign of disrespect and say, look, nobody wants to watch us right now. We need to get our act together. And they come out and all cylinders firing. But without having seen it at this point, we can't just predict it's going to happen. So Russ was clearly not right. It might click this week. It should be a good matchup. Seattle's offense on third down, they're 30th in conversion rate, but Washington's defense is 32nd in allowing third down. So if this is the team that you're going to get right on in obvious passing situations, it's going to be this team. So maybe it does happen. That Seattle defense needs to play better, though, for them to be respected as a good team. Russ needs to be much better for this line to make sense. And if both those things happen, Seattle might win a close game. If one of those things doesn't happen, Washington's probably going to win. And if both those things don't happen, it could be a rout. So I think Washington's probably the way to go. I'm just a lean, though. It's going up. Washington -1 on our screen right now. And that's kind of where I have it, is Washington -1 in my ratings, because I don't want to overrate Washington winning 2 games too much. And we know Seattle's potential with Russell Wilson. So just give me a lean on Washington.
Yeah, I mean, I do think there might be something to and I'm with you. I don't want to get overhyped about Washington by any stretch of the imagination. They were toast, 2-6 going into the bye. But I think Ron Rivera is a good football coach. I mean, we can agree on that, right? Like he's an above average football coach. He's not necessarily the sort of, like, I guess when it comes to fixing a defense, I believe Ron Rivera is a good football coach. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I don't know what was wrong earlier this year, but I think just last year he proved he was a good football coach. They did not have a team that should be winning the division. I know it was a terrible division, but he came out ahead of that division against, got other people were getting fired, and they were able to win that division and pull things together with a quarterback that some people didn't think would walk again. His life wasn't threatening, life-threatening injury, and he was able to put a run together with that dude and win the division. So I mean, that kind of proves to me that Rivera still has something coaching-wise. I don't think he's like the most analytical, going to come out and win games just because of his coaching on game day. But obviously the players like him, respected coach. And I think he probably has the edge in this matchup, because I think Pete Carroll's kind of on his last legs as a coach. Yeah.
First 6 games of the season, they gave up 31 points per game. In their last 4, they gave up just 24 points to the Packers, granted in Green Bay, 2-score game. Only 17 to the Broncos in Denver. They did lose the game. But then 19 to the Bucs and 21 to Carolina. With Cam coming back and being quite motivated to put up some points, I just kind of feel like maybe there's a chance that Ron Rivera has sort of gotten this defense to click again, which is weird, even with Chase Young going out for the season. And if that's the case, and Taylor Heineke keeping well, they got the Seahawks, Raiders, Cowboys, Raiders on the road, and then at Eagles, at Dallas before closing Philly, at New York. Like, they could string some wins together and make a little mini run at the postseason. I think they're probably a little too far back, but I wouldn't put it against this team to make some noise. That's why I like him here. I agree, though. Like, I'm not taking, if it gets like Washington -3, I'm not taking that or anything. And it really all hinges on Russ. Brady Quinn has said over and over again that he just doesn't think Russ is, like, you're just not going to get it feels funny, and you're making adjustments to it. And I think it's going to take maybe a week or 2 more for him to be good to go. All right. That is it for the best bets. The won't hit parlay checks in. Rams is a pick 'em, Panthers -1.5, Falcons is a pick 'em. I will personally be betting that one. I love it.
Nobody else bet it.
What's that?
If Brinson is on it, everybody else be off of it. You might want to take the other side of each of those.
That's right. I moneylined our parlay last week. That did not win. Saints did not win.
No kidding.
It looked kind of good for a little bit, though, except for the Saints. Pete's best bets: Jacksonville, Atlanta under 46. Titans +5.5, Bucs -2.5, Browns +4. Is it Browns +4 or 4.5?
4.
Okay. Bengals -3.5, Panthers -1.5. RJ's best bets: Philly -3, Carolina -1.5, Atlanta as a pick'em, the Jets +3, Rams pick'em, and Cleveland +4. And my best bets, I got a lot. Bucs -2.5, 49ers -3, Falcons as a pick'em, Pats -5.5, Panthers -1.5, Eagles -3, Rams pick 'em. I kind of love I don't know if I love the card so much as the slate is great. According to the NFL, there are a record 9 Week 12 games involving teams with a 500 or better record, which is fantastic for football fans. Sure, we have to sacrifice most of Thanksgiving in order to enjoy this, but it is what it is. Although I guess are the two games with the Raiders, the Raiders and the Cowboys.
Raiders Cowboys was the biggest line of the week as far as we sit here now. It's got up to 8 points for the Cowboys. That's the only one that's above 7. New England's pumped all the way up to 6, 6.5 at some books. Everything, but for the most part, every game is like 4, 4.5 or lower. So it's a lot of close matchups.
We've been seeing a ton of these big spreads almost like all season long. It's like 3 or 4 games a week where it's like 13, 14, something insane. So yeah, and Raiders, Cowboys, and Bills, Saints would qualify as teams with 500 records or better in those matchups. I mean, a ton of good action. This should be a fun week of football.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. We'll see how our picks do. Hopefully, can hit this parlay now. It's going to be interesting to. Hopefully, I'm happy now that everybody's listening to this and the Bills have looked right against the Saints. But I'm not optimistic going into the game.
That line actually moved up to 5.5 while we were doing this podcast. Got a little steam on the Buffalo Bills. That's that Josh Allen Thanksgiving primetime magic that he showed against the Cowboys recently. Anyway, that's the show. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Smash the like button, subscribe, rate, and review. For RJ, I'm Brinson. We will talk to you guys